we started earlier is that we started doing our graphite pencils, right? And so on here, we did our going from our 3 H's all the way over to our 5 B's, and we practiced with the spheres, we practiced with our blending sticks. So our newest project that we're going to do is you can either do a challenge yourself of finding a picture and printing it out, which is what I did of my dog here, and I'll be showing you how to do that in my video. But you could also just do something simple like a toy in your room that you could sketch, or even a piece of fruit, a couple pieces of fruit. So I'll show you how I did this and just give you that little guideline. So this is what I ended up doing for mine, is using the pencils. And you'll see that I use in the video a lot of going from the lights to the darks, and why we did that grid of using our pencils, going from the hard pencils to the soft pencils, and why we practice with the blending sticks. So what's nice about this is it gives you a little bit more dark and light versus just using one pencil, and that's typically why people use varied levels of graphite pencils. So I'm excited to show you this lesson. Again, you don't have to do a dog. You could do whatever you feel like, but just simply printing out a picture and doing my trick can help you get the first hardest part of the sketch done. But if you feel like sketching something after watching a video from, say, Art for Kids Hub, you can also do that. So it's all up to you. It's your choice. All right, let's get started. Alright, so what we did for our practice is we took our different pencils and we figured out what they each should look like. Our hard pencils, the H's, all the way over to our soft, the B's. So in our drawing and sketching kit that we have, we've got, you know, the 3H all the way over to 5B. And of course there's so many other it goes higher, you know, for the B's, and then it also goes lower for the H's, but this is a really good start. So what we're going to do for this project is you can either follow along with what I'm doing and do something similar as I am, or you can, you know, choose to do a still life or another sphere or apple or some other different things that you want to do in order to make your final project using shading and some of the skills that we learned. But what I am doing for this is I took a picture of my puppy, Jet, and he is an Aussie Doodle. So what I have is just a nice black and white picture that I just had the printer print out. On here is what we're going to do is you're going to flip over your picture, and on the back of it you're going to take your charcoal that you have, the nice soft charcoal, and you're just going to kind of do a nice dark area of it on the back of your paper. Okay, nice dark area, enough of it that's on there, perfect, as you can see. And if you need to do a little blow, you can blow that off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this picture over, and I'm going to have my dog picture right here, okay? And what I recommend is that you just find any tape or something sticky and just tape it down onto your paper. Like that. And then you're going to start the process of outlining. The goal with this is that the charcoal that we put on the back of it will, as you trace over this, will put the picture directly on your paper for you. So we could do that next step. What I'm going to do with this is I'm going to use a pencil, and you can use a pencil from your kit or any other pencil that you have lying around. So here you can see that this says a 2HB. So HB is actually a number 2 pencil, so kind of fun on that. That's why I wrote number 2 above the HB here. So on this picture, I'm going to zoom us in, and I'm going to show you what we're going to be doing. So zooming in here, perfect. Drag this down. Is I am going to nicely kind of just go over the area of Jet, and I'm just going to kind of trace around it of where his hair is. He's a very hairy dog, lots of fuzz. And so that's the first trick, is you just want to kind of outline the features. So whatever picture you do, that's where you're going to start. Okay, so now what you're going to notice, and I'll zoom in here, is that I started going through on different features of him and kind of doing a contour look. So areas that were darker, you know, I just made a crazy looking shape and kind of closed it off a little bit here. You know, he's got like a line here and some of those things. And so I just made like this area gets a little darker. So I'm going to zoom back out so you know what I'm looking at. So right here, this area, and I apologize for my camera moving. There we go. This area gets a little darker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a crazy little shadow line here, and this area is darker. So I didn't get every single detail. I just went and did a little bit. And then what we'll do is once you have that, you're going to carefully peel off your picture, and you should have your beautiful trace mark lines there. And things that didn't quite go, like I didn't have enough stuff up in this corner, that's okay. I can easily go back and look and go, oh yeah, you know, I could quickly draw that or make this. Now what I wanted to show you is if you have any areas that you're like, ooh, I didn't want some of this stuff to come off, you just use your kneaded eraser and it will pull up anything that you don't want or quickly can take off, which is really nice. So it just is a wonderful thing. And you know, so it stays clean, you just fold it in and it will re-clean itself, which is nice, and even your fingers. So if you ever find you have too much pastel on you, like charcoal or anything, this is a really great eraser. So, okay. So our next step that we're going to do is you're going to take your book and you're going to flip back to your directions of what we did last time. So looking at what I have here on my picture, I'm going to now think about, what colors match them best from lightest to darkest. So we're going to do a really cool contrast here. So what I will do for myself to make it easier is I'm going to label this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So I have 8. So I'm going to look at areas on here that I think should be a 1. So my lightest one, probably as a 1, is I probably want to do 1 here, right? 1 and a 1. And then I'm thinking this is 1s too. But this is a little darker, so maybe I might jump to a 3 here, right? I could do my 3s here because they're just little areas that are darker. This looks more like a 5. And you're just going to go through and you're going to label the areas that you think should be one of these colors. So like my darkest is going to be a 5 for sure. I would have this a 5. And then this part here is a little bit lighter, so I label that a 7. Okay, oh sorry, 5, an 8. What am I thinking? This is an 8 and that's a 7. So go through and label your dog or animal or piece of fruit or whatever that you're doing with your numbers 1 through 8 on here, and I'll show you the next step. All right, so once you're done labeling your areas of what your pencil numbers are going to be, this is your template. So what you'll then do is you're going to copy and you're going to fill in this area using those pencils that you chose. So you're going to keep your pencils in the case and you're going to have it numbers 1 through 8, you know, where they're nice and organized to make it easier on you. And from there, you're going to fill this in. So I will just have mine playing for you so you can see the process, and we'll just keep going. What I wanted to point out here is I'm slowly working as I go, right? I have my dog, Jet, here, and what I'm doing is I'm just starting. I know it's drastic at first when you start and you're like, oh, the darkness, and you're really close to it, but remember my rule of always taking a step back. And it's something that I even myself have to remind myself of is, oh, you know, as I'm working through it, a new technique. Just if you're in a sport, say if you're in swimming and your coach says, oh, I really want you to work on this drill and practice it. And you're like, but I'm already good at this. It's really hard to take that step back and do a new skill when you're already so good at one thing. So on this, you're using the different pencils, but you're also going to be using your blending stick. So I'm just slowing down to show you something that I do and I find that's helpful for me. So looking at my dog Jet here on the picture itself, is he's really light. It's very bright on this area. So a trick of mine is I look at the picture and I have my pencil lines. You could just blur that pencil line and it automatically gives you that cool effect and that look. And at first you go, oh, you know, it's too stark. I don't like it. Like it's just showing out and I can see that shape. That's how all of this felt. But the more you start piecing it together, the better it's going to feel. And so I'm just going to show you kind of how I'll do his mouth area, because there's a lot of different shadings and so forth in here. And then like this part down here by his chin, just to give you an idea of how to go about that and how to add. And as we do this, there's so many steps. You start with one layer of the shade, and then you can go in and go, oh, you know, I blended too much and this is too light. So then you could take the pencil and go back to it and go, you know, looking at the picture here, you know, it's really dark on this corner and around the edges here. So I go in and I re-darken that. He's got his little eyelashes there, and boom, it re-pops back out. So those are things that you could go in. Like here, I haven't even blended it yet, but maybe, you know, when I'm done, I can go in and I could draw those cool little hairlines that kind of whip out and get those extra little details. But that's stuff that you usually go in at the very end and you add those details of his hair, you know, how it curls and some of those things in the fuzzy bits. And it just really helps rework that out and make it more realistic. And there's so many ways that artists do that, is they go in and rework things as they're doing it. So what I want you to keep in mind is you're starting with that rough draft part, and then you're going to keep layering it and layering it. And you don't have to do it on this, but this is just practice of getting to know how to do a cool look. Like for me right now, looking, his eyes look really weird. Like I got this big honking eye right here and this little one, and it just looks odd. Like this looks like a dog's eye and this doesn't. And that's because I haven't done his ear here and I haven't done the top part. All you're seeing is this half. But when you look at this half, it doesn't look quite right yet. So you have to look at the whole picture instead of focusing on one thing. If I still don't like that, like maybe I drag this in too much, that's where at the end I could go in and go, my kneaded eraser, I'm going to take that off. So yours doesn't have to look beautiful and perfect. I'm just giving you a cool challenge here. Okay, so I'm going to show you this little step at the mouth area, and I labeled it as my, not my 8 one, but my number 4 and 5. So let's see here. You could also use the other ones and just kind of blend as you go. But I've got this area. And then we got the mouth area here. And he had those 2 teeth. I think there's a tooth here and another tooth here, right? Kind of re-highlight those. I might use the same pencil, and I'm just going to push darker. Okay, so now I've got that part, and what I mean is using my blending tool is I can make it just look a little bit smoother. Sometimes if you overblend, you can't see the difference. And that's okay. That's when you go back in and you just kind of redefine. So, for example, I lost where the tooth was, so I'm just going to make it a little darker. And I know it gets darker on the edge here, looking at my picture, a little darker here. And just like we've done shading in the past, you just kind of add in those areas or lines that you see. Okay. His little tongue area. It's a little darker shadow here. And then I get some of those other darker shadows for his mouth, jaw area. Perfect. Okay. And then using my darkest, because the bottom of his lip is nice and dark. And you can see how it starts coming together. Again, I'm not wanting these to be perfect. It's just more of practice of learning how to darken areas. Okay? And then I've got his jaw, which is interesting. So what I might do is I might just blend at this point, like this, kind of get some of that hair up on his jaw, and then I might just draw a couple darkened lines, get some shadows in here, because he's got some shadows, right? It's not like a perfect defined line, and I could just quickly blend those a little bit so they don't look so dark. And there's his chin. So you can see things are slowly coming together. And that's, you just kind of keep working your way as you go. You don't have to fill everything in. Some of those areas that don't have a lot, you know, sometimes just leaving it blank just really helps. So my number 3 is the next one. And I could just kind of play. It's a little darker on the edge and a little darker here, and then it gets to really light, so just kind of blend that if I want, because the picture's fuzzy. So as you go, you just keep working it as you go, and I will pause it again, and I will show you how, if you really want to have a white highlight, we have our white pastel. So some of the areas, maybe I want to do that. And then there's a cool other trick of, if you want to erase some things, like here I have some of those white in his chin, some of these white lines, I could easily just kind of erase out with the kneaded eraser to get some of that really cool look. But we're more looking for a contrasty piece of what we did on our paper here. Okay, so keep going. You're doing great. And please, if you get discouraged, start something new if you want, or just start with something small. I just wanted to show you that you could do this from an apple, a ball, all the way to dogs, and even that's how people do people. One thing that I wanted to point out is I am a lefty, and even if you're a lefty or righty, a lot of artists working with pencil as well as charcoal find the trick of using another piece of paper, even a Kleenex. So as I kind of worked my way down the left side and I worked down, but as I come over this way, I can smear or smudge all of my hard work. So a lot of people will then use a piece of paper that they can go through, and it won't really pull off that much as you work. So you can kind of cover it as you go, areas that you don't want to smudge or smear. So you're going to notice in my video that that's just my next step. So this is where I'm at. Remember to take breaks. Remember, sometimes you might not want to finish all of it, and that's okay. Maybe you're like, oh, I put so much time in just the head, and you only want to do the head. You could do that too. What's nice about art is you don't have to have the whole story sometimes. And this is just teaching you that one trick of using more than just one level pencil that you're typically used to using, like one that we have in the art room and what that you use on tests and in your classroom. So I find that sometimes I gravitate towards the dark a lot, and I'm like, oh, but you don't want to have things too dark. So it's just good to kind of play and mix with, and you might find that you only like using 3 of the pencils, and that's okay too. So just keep going, and you're doing a fabulous job. If you have questions, send me your progress even on Flipgrid if you want. But just know I'll be proud of you no matter what you do. Okay? You need a little slower bit. So as you can see, this is really fuzzy here, and I was using a darker. So here is just me blending the darker part. It's always scary at first when you're using the dark, but what I like about it is it blends so well, and it does come off nice if you need to and you don't like anything. But you just have to remember that you have to go back in and kind of refine some things. So meaning I lost a little of the shape, so you go in and you push darker and redraw out that line that you're looking for. So that's just the trickier parts, and you learn it as you go. Like this eye had a little darker in this area here and underneath, because his hair just kind of hides his face a lot. And I can redraw in some of those darker lines that I was looking for, and that gives it that little bit of depth. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. Sometimes squint your eyes, that'll help you with seeing it better. And yeah, you just kind of keep, sometimes you could use your darker, like I have my 4B right now, so my number, the 7 on our list, and this is some of my lighter areas, or kind of shaded-ish. So I'm just taking the pencil and I could literally just smudge that enough that gives me enough of an illusion that it's kind of light but also kind of dark around those areas that I wanted. And that helps me with this. So he's just got some other fun lines and things and hairs that are in the way in some of these spots, and I can redraw those in, some of those shadows that I really want. And you could go as detailed or as little detail as you want. There is no right or wrong answer. Again, this is practice. You don't have to worry about showing, I think the nice thing about our group on Flipgrid is we're all learning together and we're all going to inspire each other. And we all have different techniques that we love, and we can share those together. So this is just how I slowly work. And if you're not feeling it, it's okay. There are times, like right now I'm cringing going, I just want it done. And that happens. And sometimes you need a break. Or if you're uninspired, you could stop and be like, hey, so this is what I did. I didn't finish it all the way, and that's okay. So I will not be upset. Again, this is practice. You do not have to show it at the art show that we do when we get together. And you're at home learning how to do some of these things. So the nice part about these blending sticks is they do have some of it on there. So you could always use this to play with. And if you don't like something, use your kneaded eraser and take it right off. So that's the really cool part. Like I feel like I made that a little too dark, so I could go in with my kneaded eraser and get that back out. Use my lighter pencil here. Yeah, that's what I wanted. See, the lighter pencil just gives that nicer, clean detail that I was looking for versus the darker, softer pencils. The hard ones help. And I can see on here, some of my pencil lines didn't transfer. So I'm looking going, where is this shape? It's missing, and that's okay. So then I just go in and I redraw that in. There we go. Now I can see the rest of all that crazy hair of his. Yeah, much better. And there's the curve. Perfect. And again, no one's going to know if you didn't get the exact shape right or any of that other stuff. Even you over time won't know. It's just going to be part of your art. There we go. This whole line up here missed and disappeared too. Who knew? Oh, I got my shapes back. I knew I was missing a bunch. Now he has a head. Cool. It's amazing what shadows do. Just putting in a little shadow, just you can see that that's part of his face. And I could just go in with a couple of these areas here and just do a couple lines for shadows, and that'll really make this area pop. And I think a lot of us like to see those our pencil lines. It just gives it character. So don't be afraid to show that. I think it'll all work in the end. Sometimes I need to take it off and just look back and go, oh, I lost that sharp contrast. And that's what I meant, is you'll go in and you'll just start adding in those areas that you just see like, oh, it's blending too much. Like I need to make it really pop. And you might go in and go, this area looks like it just needs a little something extra so it stands out more. And those are those fine details. So as you can see, you kind of, as you work and go, you're going to realize, oh, I need to darken some areas, I need to lighten some areas. And that's just part of the whole pencil trick. And that's why you have so many different ones. And it gives you that really neat contrast. So take your time, keep playing. Again, please don't compare to me. I just wanted to show you the extreme differences of what we practiced and then something of how we can get to, you know, something like this, which you're all capable of. But just remember, I've had many, many years of playing and practicing, and you are going to be doing just as well as me and better, I promise. So the nice part is if you really wanted a tiny, tiny line that you wanted to erase out, you could just take your kneaded eraser and you could make it like a nice little point, and you could literally draw your hairlines that you wanted to erase. So it just seemed like there was I would have too much darkness in a couple of these areas, so I just wanted to relighten that back up. He's already dark by his eye, he doesn't need to have more. See, I'm not doing a lot of details. It's mainly I'm just taking my blending stick and I'm just kind of playing with it, because it's really light up here with some shadows, so I'm just kind of using the blending stick more as my tool than anything else. And you could always go in and give the edges, you know, the shadows that you're looking for, to refine some of those blended areas that you're like, ooh, I need a little bit more. Or some areas over here I just want to stand out a little bit. And that's how you do it. And if you don't like it, blend it a little bit. So there he is. You know, I might work a little bit more on that back part here, but otherwise that's kind of where I'm at. So, looking forward to seeing your work.